Last time, I reported that I had addressed some issues with the doors rendering weird, plus did more optimization for rendering the dungeon for The Dungeon Under My House, my second freshly squeezed entertainment project. If you've been following along, you know that The Dungeon Under My House will be a non-violent, first-person dungeon crawler, and as a freshly squeezed entertainment project, it will be a polished, playable prototype that provides a complete entertainment experience. It will be freely available for desktop computers as well as mobile devices with no ads, no in-app purchases, and no personal data tracking. Hello and welcome. My name is Gianfranco Berardi. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I encourage curiosity and support creativity through my solo indie game development studio, GB Games LLC. I'm really happy that you're here to join me on this indie game development journey. In this week's Freshly Squeezed progress report, you can see the link to the companion blog post in the description. I continued optimizing the dungeon rendering code, and I think I'm at the end of that work. I suppose this isn't a terribly exciting update, but what you see is how the profiler sees the code as of last week. You can tell that the draw ceilings and draw floors code is at roughly the same performance. Since the code for each function is fairly similar, I was optimizing the ceiling drawing code, and then comparing it to the floor drawing code to see how much better it can get, and also to verify that I'm actually making improvements. And it got significantly better. The draw ceilings code is now much smaller relative to the draw floors in the profiler. I'm making good progress. Some of my optimizations helped everywhere, such as replacing the dungeon lighting tinting code so that it doesn't create an unnecessary temporary object, and instead works inline. But the major change that I was hoping would result in a major improvement didn't. If you recall from last time, I was lamenting that most of my optimizations didn't do anything about the fact that I was processing 500 million pixels. So I thought if I used the depth information from my wall casting code to determine if a pixel should be processed, it should cut down on a large percentage. Well, it helped a little, but it turns out that most of the code optimizations I had done prior moved the code outside of the inner loop already. The only savings I get is from handling lighting and calculating exactly which spot in the texture of the ceiling to render. But every little bit helps. After all, I learned from last time that there wasn't any one part of the code that was the bottleneck. That said, it is pretty good looking already, and aside from a less and less noticeable lag with the mouse cursor when the dungeon view is animating, it will look even better once I apply the same optimizations to the floor rendering code. Unless I can think of another major optimization, I think I'm ready to move on to more interesting work, such as replacing the test dungeon with the game's first real dungeon content and the player's first real things to do there. Thanks for watching, and stay curious. Now, if you want to learn when I release The Dungeon Under My House, or about future freshly squeezed entertainment games I am creating, then sign up for the GB Games Curiosities newsletter and download full-color player's guides to my existing and future games for free. Again, check the links in the description.